Hey guys, welcome back to Code and Box Automation Lab. This is Sharaful. In this lecture, we're going to see how to optimize our base class as an util method and inherit this method to child class with a test method. Okay, so what does it mean? It means like if you have seen my previous lecture, so you already know this is a base class and we create one method which is config Appium, right, where we have all the configuration, the setup, the code related for the server, and the automatically programmatically we're starting our server over here. This is the IP address for your local machine, and also the port number where your server is listening. So all this configuration over here, this is like it's kind of like prerequisite, or you can say it is kind of like set up method, right, where we also write our code over here. This one, like we locate one element which is called preference, if you remember that. So this is our app, right, our app. So over here the preference, we located this preference and we clicked on there in our last lecture, right? So it means here, so this is the locator for this preference that we use our Appium inspector, and then we apply the click method, right? So here is everything over here, like all the requirement for the initial requirement for the server to kick off the server, and then also the testing code. This is the actual testing code which is related with the element and also the action that we're going to perform to execute or to do our automation. So what if we can make some little bit optimized? What does it mean? It means like whatever we do, like we click on an element, then we type something, those are the actual testing execution, right? So those are the related code would be the actual test script. So, and here this code, it's like prerequisite. So what if we leave this prerequisite in a separate method, like you can say config method is same method, and we separate all the code related, which is the pure code related for the testing method. Okay, that's what we can do. So that otherwise this is the code related for one test, and if I want to write another test, I have to create another class, and then again in that class I have to also rewrite the same code. It will be duplicate, right? Because every test execution you need to give the knowledge to your code about your server, right? So this is like a common code, so that will be the duplicate. It's repeating work. So other than rewrite or repeating the same code again and again for each and every class, right, each and every test cases, it's not a smart way to do the automate. So we're doing automate over here. So it's not only the we want to automate our testing, but also you have to optimize your code so that the execution gets faster and it looks neat and clean, your code. Let's just go through with me and you will see. So I'm going to create another method for let me create another method over here, just class, sorry. So let's create another class. This will be the class, and then let's give a name over here, Wi-Fi set Wi-Fi. You will see what does it mean, because I'm creating a class. There's a new class, and over there I'm going to create a method. It's called public void, and then set Wi-Fi test. Okay, and then this is the method. So in this test case, this is a separate class where I'm going to write number of test cases over here, and these test cases will be separate from my base class, like from my all the methods I have related with my the driver configuration or repeated work. Okay, so here what would be let me introduce about the scenarios, what I'm going to do over here. So this is my app, right? So here is last lecture we click on preference, so we will click on preference, and after that we'll click on over here preference dependency, and after that we'll check off this Wi-Fi option. So if you check off this one, and then the Wi-Fi settings will come up, click on up there, then there will be Wi-Fi settings, so we can type our Wi-Fi network name, whatever the name, just something, and then click on OK. So it is like we're setting our Wi-Fi. Okay, so this is like, assume that this is our scenario. That's why I give a name of the test method. It's called set Wi-Fi test. Okay, so let me go back, just going back. Okay, so here this is the that's why I give him a name, set Wi-Fi test, and this is a class. You can say set Wi-Fi, or we can in one class you can have number of test cases. So but anyways, let's come over here. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to copy this, the actual related code, to locate that preference element over here. Okay, so and then I will write some code, like all the code related to find the elements. Okay, right now I'm going to find, I have the rest of the code. I'm going to place it there, and I will explain you in our next lecture how to locate this element using the the inspector, right? Like the Appium inspector. Assume that you know it. So this is the first one, clicking the preference, and after that this is the another locator for the advanced another locator that as I showed you, and then click up there, and after that this is the check the checkbox. This is the locator for the checkbox for the Wi-Fi settings, and then click on up there, and this is the here there where the Wi-Fi settings window come up, and then you click in up there so that you can type something up there, right? And then let me remove here, and then this is the get text. Let me just comment this too. We don't need for now this to make it comment. And here this is the place where the box came up. We type just some random number, the name, like network name, underneath the send keys. If you're familiar with the Selenium world, so this to type some in a box or in a field, you have to use send keys method, and this is the locator for the submit or OK button, and then click on okay. So this is the way you are going to do the testing. So assume that that how to locate that, even though as I said we'll have a the next lecture I will show you each and every element how to find it. I don't want to make this tutorial too long. In this tutorial my focus is to optimize our base class. Okay, so here is the scenarios. This is all the code related with the scenarios, actual test scenarios, right? Like to locating and performing some action. And here it's so before, if I want to run this test cases, right, before I inspect any element, I have to pass this I have to kick off the server, right? I have to run the server, Appium server, right? So I need to execute this code, all this code, right? I have to execute all the code, and including this where is the our app, right? And then also the object of the driver, so which is the because the driver is going to do the job, so the driver, right? So those are all common things, right, that I need to execute first before I do any testing, before I find any element, because this code will run the Appium server, and after that it will execute whatever your it will translate all the code to your server, and server will read the line by line, and it will execute as per your instruction to the virtual your emulator machine, right, emulator device. So this is the prerequisite, right? So that's why I separate the prerequisite, because if I if I now write another scenarios, I need to write the code for another scenarios. So I will create another method and I will write all the related code just to locate that element and those element and action, like different whatever the action. And again, to execute that test case, I need the same code. So what I can do, I can pass this code. So this is the repeated and reusable code. I need this repeated code or reusable code again and again before any test case I execute, right? So other than writing this code with your test cases every time, I make it separate, this method underneath a base class. Like you can consider this is your util class, where all the method is going to be like reusable method, like the method like you are going to use more than once or twice. So it's better you can put all the method underneath one class in a method, so that whenever you need those kind of work, you can call that method from this base class to your the place you need in your test cases or your test class. Then now how I can pass this knowledge, this information, because this is a driver info. Over here you can see there is an error over here because this driver doesn't have a live. This driver doesn't know what doesn't mean this driver. I didn't declare this driver declare any variable as a driver. So this driver is a dead driver. The driver I'm meaning the driver is over here. I have, right, the driver I have over here, this driver, right? So this is the same driver I'm meaning, but there is no connection between these two. So what I can do, I can pass, there is a different way you can pass this driver knowledge, this method, to in this class, in this method. You can create an object. The one way you can do, you can create an object of your base class and use the object reference and call this method over here, and then your over here your all the driver, the driver related method will come over here and your driver will get the live. That's one way, if you're familiar with Java, right? But it is like every time you create a class you have to do the same thing, right? Or other way you can do, I can make a relationship between these two class as a parent-child relationship, which is called inheritance. Okay, I hope that you know about the inheritance if you cover the Java. So how to make an inheritance using extend keyword, and then write your parent class. So parent class would be my base class. So as soon as you use the extend keyword, and the left side method class will consider you as a child class, and the right side will be considered as a parent class. So it means this child class now have the direct access all the properties of the parent class, which is the base. So base class have what kind of properties you have? Base class have there is a couple of variable, there is a method. So everything you have in your base class, this child class have a direct access. Okay, so it means you can see now it's automatically, if I just save it, let me save it, so now driver. So I have to just update a few things, import over here, import this by. Now you can see this driver, the error was there was an error with the driver. It's gone. How? Because this driver now getting in the info, it's getting the live from the base class driver. So in the base class we have a driver over here, right? So in the driver, and this base class driver, it means this is the driver, right? The same driver, same driver. This driver is the same. This driver is the same driver we have over here, and this is the actual driver who has the live, right? So this live, this driver is now initiating, is passing the knowledge over here, right? It's passing the knowledge over. So this driver now have the live. Okay, that's the way you can directly pass, so because when you make a relationship between parent and child using extend, which is the inheritance concept of the OOPS principle from the Java. So if you are not familiar, please check below. I will share the link, our inheritance tutorial, so that you can have a very quick glance and you can understand or you can brush up the inheritance concept. So when you establish the inheritance concept, it means child and parent, you can consider, you can visualize these two class have a like merge. It's a relationship like parent and child. So child definitely have the direct access of the parent class. So that's why the child, the element, you have the same element you have in parent and child. So it's this element, the driver, you have in child class, which is getting the knowledge from the parent class, because parent have the same driver, which is the actual driver. So this driver is now have the live. Okay, so that's the easy way you can do it. If you don't if you right, so now what else we need to do? Here is one more thing we need. So now the driver needed the knowledge is been passed to the child class related test, right? Now the problem is, like, if I still run it, it will fail. Let me run it and you see. So to run it over here, so to make this class, this method, to make this method as a test, as a test, how we can distinguish this method is a pure test case, and how I can, because this is a method and this is also method, and that to make any method as a test, in our previous class we said that we're going to use it at the rate test annotation from the TestNG features. So this is not anymore test, this method is not anymore test, it is a util method, right? So we're going to remove this test annotation from here, and we'll update our this method as a test. So type is test, and then import the related package. So now this method will consider as a test. So now if I just run this method, let's see what happened. You will see it's saying it's fail. Why is failing? Let's see. If I go, you will see the error is null point exception. Why is null point exception? Null point exception usually happen when the driver, your driver is objecting, is pointing with a no object, because this driver, but it doesn't make sense, because we're saying that this driver have the live from the same driver, right? You can see over here it's saying over here because this driver is null. So driver we're using over here in our test cases over here, this driver is pointing to null, it's not pointing to actual driver. But we know that when you make a relationship between two classes, a parent and child, and here this driver have the live, and this driver actually passed over here. This driver means this is the same driver. So how come this driver does not have the live? The problem is, like, we pass the knowledge of the driver, but is that this method get execute ever? When we run this test cases, it execute this test case, this method. It didn't invoke this method at all. It didn't invoke. It passed the driver knowledge, but it didn't invoke this method. If this method does not execute first, how your server will run, how this driver object will create, and how this driver will initiate to do the job. So that was the problem. So because this method never didn't run, so we have to make sure that this method also get execute. This method also get execute when we run this test cases, and that have to be before. That method have to run before we execute this code, right? Because those are the prerequisite. This method are the prerequisite. This is the initial things have to execute first, then the related method of the test cases have to run. Other than otherwise your server will not kick off, right? Your driver object will not create, and your driver will not initiate to do the job. So then how your test cases will who's going to find the element in your test cases, right? So that's the issue happen. So it means we have to run this method before we run any test cases, any code from the test cases. To do that, there is also another annotation available in TestNG. It's called before test or before class. Let's use the before class. It's called the before class. Hover your mouse, import the related package. So what is the before class means? So before class means this, when you use this annotation with any method, so this method will get priority to run before any other method, any other code you have between your parent and child class. Because now it will not, this method will run before class. It means this method will run before before you whatever code or whatever other method you have in a class. Now it will not, the TestNG will not only scan this class, it will also scan your child class too, because you establish a relationship. You make this base class as a parent and you said, oh, hey, I have a child class too. So when the before method will scan to execute that, it will scan both parent and child class, and within this class it will see whatever other method you have, will make sure the before method will run first before any other method between these two classes. And here is one more important thing before annotation means, and it will run multiple times. It means how many times? As I said, multiple times. What does it mean? It means if you have any other test method in your child class, like whatever the number. So right now I have one test class, right? One test method in my child class. If you have multiple test method in your child class, this before method, this before class, this method will run. Yes, it will run once. That's another concept is called that is a before method, but let's it will run once. Just let it make it clear. So it will run once within this parent and child class before any other method you have between these classes. Okay, so it is clear. And let me make it another before I run. So this is also the driver quit and also service is stop. So it's quitting the app and also the is also stop the your server. This is also repeated work, right? Every at the end of every test cases, right, at the end of every test scenarios or every test method, we want to stop our server, we want to stop the driver too. So this is also repeated work. So let's remove this guy from here, from here, and also create another method so that it can perform automatically at the end of every test cases. Done, the execution is done, and that's called, let me public void. So that's the method name teardown. So this is a very the common method when you put the code related to quit your driver as well as server to stop. So let's copy paste over here. Okay, so this method and supposed to run, so we want to run this method at the end of every test cases you have in your child class. So to do this, it's the same concept like we have a before class, and there is another annotation is called after class. So after class, it means, let me import the related package. After class, it means this method will automatically run, it will scan, and it will ensure all other method has been executed, like the before method, test cases method. It will execute it, and then it will run at the very end. Okay, at the very end. So that's what we want. We want to run this code at the very end, so that it's quit the driver, like it's quit the app, and as well as stop the server. Okay, now let me run it. Let me run it. Run as TestNG. Let me minimize it so that we can see the over here the output. Okay, okay, it didn't show any error, so it means it's working. So it will start the server, so it takes a little bit time. You can see over here, attempt to load the driver. Okay, here is a 200. I can see response, which is good. Here we go. You can see it's invoke the Appium, like the app. Yes, let's click on preference. Let's click on preference dependency. Now it should check off the Wi-Fi. Yes, then click on Wi-Fi settings. Then you see that's its type over there. Here we go. It's pretty good. So test is pass. So okay. So that's the way you can optimize your base class with a util file, so util method. So this is, you can consider as an util method. Util method is nothing. It's just you are going to create a method that's going to be reusable again and again. Whenever you need, you can call that method to use in your test cases wherever you need. So that's why you are going to create a separate class. So you can you will see in our moving forward, when we'll bring up more and more practice, you will see this will create more reusable method, more reusable method like a config method, right? So like we create a teardown method. So this is our more reusable method. So so when we'll create more class and more test cases, never will write the same type of code, same driver initialize related code again and again. No, we're not going to do anymore. So the same way we'll create a relationship between base class and set up a inheritance process, create the test cases as a child class, and easily we can transfer the knowledge from your base class to your child class automatically, right? So that's the easy way you can optimize your base class as a util method, and then transfer the knowledge to your child class. Okay, thanks a lot. Have a good one. Bye bye.